Welcome, everybody, to a special post-game edition of All In with Art Stapleton, a New York Giants podcast brought to you by NorthJersey.com and The Record. I'm your host, Art Stapleton, from the radio booth here at Empower Field at Mile High. And for the first time in, I believe, NFL history, a team led by 18 points with 6 minutes to go in regulation and lost the game. I don't know how many times the Giants can break their own hearts and break the hearts of their fan base, but yet somehow, some way, they figure out a way to steal defeat from the jaws of victory. And yes, it's cliche, but ultimately, what else do we have at this point? Final score, 33-32 Denver Broncos over the New York Giants. A lot to get to, but let's go to the end and then we'll build around the locker room. That's why we're here, right? We're here in Denver. Companies paying money to have me here, to do our podcast, to have all of our coverage on NorthJersey.com. So we're your eyes and ears in the locker room. Devastated locker room. You could just tell the players just could not believe that this happened. Jackson Dart at the podium. And talk about a guy who deserves better today. Jackson Dart says at the podium, which I think kind of encapsulates everything, I never thought we were going to lose the game. Never. Because as Jackson Dart said last week and said 2 weeks ago, he's new to this. He doesn't carry with him the stench of the Giants for the better part of the last 12 years. So when Jackson Dart threw that interception today, the only time he actually looked like a rookie, forced the throw to Theo Johnson, thought he can get it over the defender, made the mistake, and the interception essentially triggers a comeback for the Broncos. Now, it wasn't just all on that one play, but it started the momentum going for Denver here. Got this crowd into it. They were dead for most of the day. But what did Jackson Dart do? After the Broncos take the lead, Jackson Dart, and I got to get the correct time because it was with 1:51 left, Bo Nix runs for a touchdown, his second touchdown run, and it gives the Broncos the lead, and it's stunned disbelief on the Giants sideline. And you think that the Giants are going to lose this game. Let's be honest. We've seen it enough. We've seen the Giants team go 3 and out in that situation, or throw an interception at the end of the game, or make a mistake that costs the game when the offense is there. But not with Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart keeps pushing the issue. A rookie. 22 years old, and they get the play downfield. They almost hit the Jalen Hyatt play right off of that. And then as we see how the game ended, had they hit the touchdown pass to Jalen Hyatt, Broncos would have had even more time to come back and win the game. But that throw that he made to Bo Collins up the right sideline to get the defensive pass interference on Riley Moss, to be at the 2-yard line in that situation. Then the Broncos are losing it. They're done. Sean Payton loses his mind. Everybody wants to talk about Dable last week with the medical tent after the concussion protocol. Sean Payton's out on the field screaming and yelling at the officials. In the moment, his team's watching it. He gets a flag for unsportsmanlike conduct. The ball gets moved to the 1. First play, the Giants, they're bunched, and then they call a motion, and everybody spreads out. You knew in that situation that Jackson Dart was going to run a keeper. He goes to the left side. Second effort, has enough presence of mind to put the ball over the goal line. And upon further review, Dart gets the ball over the goal line. It's a touchdown, and the Giants take the lead, 32-30. the whole building is stunned. Now, everyone here in Denver, I guarantee you, are thinking, this game's over. We just lost. The Giants just came back. Jackson Dart just pulled one out of the hat, and they won. But, of course, the Giants and what's happened, and I swear I think this franchise, I truly believe now they are snake bit and cursed. They had to make a deal with the football devil back in 2007 and 2011 to win Super Bowl 42 and 46, because to have some of the things happen to them over and over and over again, sometimes you figure, well, maybe it's just bad plays. Guys make bad plays. But to have Jude McTamney, an international pathway player, so he doesn't even count on the roster when he was on the practice squad. He is now the kicker for Graham Gano, who is on IR, due to be eligible to come off this week, of course. You have Younghoe Koo, who has won games in this league, who's on the practice squad. McTamney won the competition, according to the coaches, with Koo. Koo is still on the practice squad. McTamney misses an extra point against the Eagles, but the Giants end up winning the game going away. I had wondered on this podcast after the Eagles game, told you I wondered if they would go to Koo. They didn't. They stuck with McTamney, and they got burned. Missed an extra point early in the game. And when you talk about missing the extra point in that situation, I just think, if you're a professional kicker, you cannot miss that extra point. Sorry, you can't. And to his credit, look, Jude McTamney stood at his locker and answered it and said, I just missed it. There were no excuses. I had heard that, Casey Kreider was trying to say that it wasn't a great snap. McTamney said he should have been able to kick both extra points. He did not. So that's what happens. It's now 32-30 instead of 33-30. So in that point, the Giants kick off. They run 4 seconds off the clock, and 33 seconds left. The Broncos have the ball. The idea is that with no timeouts, this is now not a situation like Dallas, but it is very similar in that you have limited time. When the Eagles were driving last week, Shane Bowen decided to listen to his players. Remember the narrative we talked about? They wanted to be more aggressive. They were more aggressive against the Eagles in the red zone. It led to Cordell Flott's interception that turned the game, changed the game completely, and ended up winning the game for the Giants. Tonight, 33 seconds left, they decide to play as lack of aggressiveness as you can possibly have. They rush 3 and drop 8. Now, mind you, they're dropping 8 in a secondary that has already lost Javon Holland to a knee injury in the first half, tried to come back 2 plays at the end of the second quarter, just was not good enough, could not move well enough. Pain management. Holland said afterwards he'll go for testing tomorrow, but he believes the knee is stable. We will see. But then they lose Paulson Adebo, their top corner, who was traveling with Cortland Sutton all over the field and did a good job. And Bo Nix really was not able to get any kind of vertical game. So in that situation, 33 seconds to go, bring some pressure, something, because you don't want to leave it to your secondary, because you see what happened. They complete a pass near midfield, and all of a sudden, it's between 4 different guys who they look like they're the Keystone Cops. They're just standing around. And then Brian Burns has rushed his ass off, getting 2 sacks today, left everything he had out here and more. The Broncos are hustling to the ball because they don't have a timeout. And I know you're the Giants. You don't want to call your last timeout there. Remember, they used the timeout on the Dart touchdown run, but they got it back because it was ruled a touchdown on official review because it was under 2 minutes. So the Giants got their timeout back. It's 3 rushers on this team that has been aggressive. You were aggressive all game long. You took it to the Broncos. You saw weakness and you took it to them. And in that spot, you rely on a secondary that's down 2 of your best players, 2 of your starters, your best cover guy in the entire game on the team, in Paulson Adebo. And then, of course, the salt in the wound is the go ball to Cortland Sutton along the left-hand side that ended up sealing the game to Deonte Banks. And I don't think Deonte Banks has turned his head around yet. It's unforgivable, unacceptable to let that game slip away the way they did. And then Will Lutz trots onto the field. He was good from 60. The only way this game would have been worse, a worse ending for the Giants, would have been Lutz hitting from 70 here in Denver in Mile High and setting a league record. And nobody thought that he was going to miss that field goal. 39 yards out. The Giants used up their field goal luck in the first game of the Brian Dable and Joe Shane era, apparently, down in Tennessee, having that field goal sail wide and winning the first game of this regime. So 33-32, the final here with Denver. What do I think? Well, let's go to the locker room. Brian Burns, there's no doubt that Brian Burns took this as hard as any player in the locker room. He left his right foot in a walking boot. He said it was precautionary. Obviously, they have a long flight. They put a compression sleeve on first and then the walking boot. So you hope that by tomorrow there's no swelling. He goes for tests, and then maybe he can gut it out and be ready for next week. But Burns sat in his locker for at least 10 minutes. It was one of these lockers that almost like are built for, looks like hockey goalies. You see that a lot in hockey, right? You have a goalie who gives up a big goal at the end of a game. He'll just sit in his locker in his pads and his uniform on, and that was Burns for at least 10 minutes. Now, TV cameras caught Burns coming off the field when they were heading to the locker room, videotaping them, saying eight guys, dropped eight. The Giants players are not happy. And that comes down to the defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen. And if Brian Dable said that he thought they should be in soft coverage, well, then Dable has to answer for it. Dable has to answer for it anyway. But I'm not sure if Shane Bowen can survive this in the locker room with these players. Because they just told you. We spent a week talking about how more aggressive they wanted to be. And it worked against the defending Super Bowl champs. The best win the Giants have had outside of a playoffs in forever. So Brian Burns mentioned it again about sending 3, dropping 8. You got to know the situation. I mean, playing off coverage the way they did, and then just allowing a soft play. That was a soft catch, the one they made in the first one. The second one, at that point, you put on the player. I mean, Deonte Banks, they've been drilling this in his head. It's a busted play. It's a busted pick. It is what it is. And, again, I promised this audience that I was not going to make it a referendum on this regime week to week. This is one of those games that happen that this fan base, this franchise, deserved to win this game. You dominated for 3 quarters. Your rookie quarterback threw 3 touchdown passes. Yes, the third one was lucky. And at that moment, everybody is figuring maybe the Giants are actually going to get lucky here. Maybe they're going to get lucky here. The ball goes through Wan'Dale's hands, off his chest, right to Theo Johnson on the run. He doesn't stop and goes down the field for a touchdown. At that moment, there's nobody in this building thinking the Broncos are going to win that game. Zero, zilch, no one thinks the Broncos are going to win that game after that play. And yet, somehow, the Giants found a way to give it up to Denver. So, Jackson Dart, yes, he made a rookie mistake. But he was methodical against this defense. Number 1 in the league, Denver came in. On record pace, I know all of you followed all the pregame shows this morning. All the tweets from the national reporters. Denver's on record pace for sacks and all the things that they did, quarterback hits, and they were number 1 in defense. And Dart deserved to win the game. He had 283 yards passing, I believe it was, which is a career high, 283. He was 15 for 33 for 283, was sacked 4 times, had 3 touchdown passes, that 1 interception for a passer rating of 93.4. Then he had the touchdown run. And when you come back the way they did and they get kicked in the teeth, that's the challenge now for Brian Daboll and these coaches and the leaders on this team, because it's going to be hard to pick those guys up. It really is. It's going to be hard to pick this team up and show resiliency, because this was a game you couldn't play any better, any tougher, any more physical against a team that talked smack to you all week. You came to their building where they haven't lost. They've now won 8 games in a row at home, which is the longest winning streak in the NFL. It's just one of those things where, Giants fans, I feel for you. I really do. I really feel for you, because this was one that you deserved. Jackson Dart deserved to win this game. The offensive line battled their asses off. How good was Andrew Thomas? Nick Bonito, the guy who came in as the leading contender for the Defensive Player of the Year in the NFL, essentially begged out of his matchup with Andrew Thomas, went to the other side. So I'm going to try my hand at Jermaine Illuminor, because I can't beat Andrew Thomas. That's how good you are offensively today at times. Now, it wasn't perfect, but the Giants scored over 30 points again. They've scored over 30 points in in 3 games this year, and they're 1-2 in those games. How does that happen? It's mind-boggling. Again, and this isn't about firing Brian Daboll or firing Joe Shane. Yeah, they've got to answer for this game. But what this game shows you is they can compete with any team on their schedule. Is it going to be easy going to Philly, a place they haven't won since 2013, after Philly kind of found itself a little bit today? No. But this team is different in a lot of ways. It's not different in the most important spot. There are going to be a lot of guys on this team. Heck, I'm going to look at this scoreboard, think about this score. How did the Giants lose this game? How? It's not it's one of those things where you lose the game the way you lose it, and it's unacceptable. It really is. It's unacceptable. I got some questions. Jason from section 322. When the Giants had the 1st and 10 after the big 4th down conversion, why are they chucking the ball downfield? Plenty of time, a timeout. I think they felt as though the Denver defense was going to commit penalties. And they showed it all game long. Denver had no discipline whatsoever. Of course, the lack of discipline hurts the Giants at the end. Kayvon Thibodeau jumps off sides and ends up giving the Broncos another down. But I think that was what it was. I think they saw what they liked, and they were right. They got plays downfield. They almost hit Hyatt for the touchdown, and then went to Bo Collins. They got the defensive pass interference. Should you win the game in that spot? It's not on the offensive play calls in that spot. And you scored over 30 points against the number one team, a number one defense in the league. Everyone wants to know about Younghoe Koo. Look, Koo's here. He's on the practice squad. He's mingling with guys. The reality is they chose McIntyre, and they chose poorly. Now, I don't know if Younghoe Koo hits those 2 extra points. Younghoe Koo is not in Atlanta because he missed the game-winning field goal in week 1, or at least a field goal that would have put him in overtime. And that's when Atlanta said, you know what, we're making a change. So it's when you aren't a perfect team, you make imperfect plays and imperfect decisions. And you're asking your players to overcome them. And you know what? 33 seconds left on the board with this defense, you could have overcome that extra point. You could have been walking out of here saying, thank God, thank the football gods, we escaped. But you didn't. And the bigger issue to me is that you lost the game the same way you lost the Dallas game. You played soft. You didn't let your guys go and get them. Now, there were times, if you looked at Bo Nix's record today, look at the proof was in how he performed. Every time he took a deep shot, he overthrew his receiver by 5 to 10 yards. Send your guys. Send the guys that get paid to make plays. Abdul Carter, Brian Burns. How is Dexter Lawrence not on the field? If Dexter Lawrence is hurt, then that's something that we'll find out this week. But I could be wrong, but I don't think Dexter Lawrence was on the field for that last offensive play before the field goal. And you've got to make your best players feel like they're having the game being put in their hands. And what they did by deciding to rush 3 and drop 8 is take the game out of their defensive stars' hands. You didn't even have your best corner on the field. You didn't have your best safety on the field in Javon Holland. And yet you still dropped 8 and said somebody's going to make a play. They didn't go at Cordell Flott's guy. Cordell Flott, all of a sudden, playing great. They went at Deonte Banks. And Deonte Banks made the mistake. And gave up the play. And it's a frustrating thing. So let's see. What other questions do we have here? So that's the coup thing. I don't know why. Eric from Section 322 wants to know, do you think they can recover from such a brutal loss with the upcoming schedule? If they can recover psychologically and the injuries are not severe or serious, they get Holland back. Look, Dane Belton played well in relief. So if they have to play without Holland, they can't survive without Paulson Adebo. And if Brian Burns isn't playing, yes, that means more for Abdul Carter and Kayvon Thibodeau, but you need Brian Burns. Brian Burns right now is the best pass rusher in the league. He is. He's got 9 sacks, leads the NFL. Back-to-back sacks and back-to-back 2 sacks in back-to-back games. That's the question. Dable's done a good job of being able to pick this team up, and they got to do it again. And producer Paul Wood wants to know about Jackson. Jackson Dart keeps balling, and the kickers are missing kicks. When does Shane Bowen get the blame? He has a lot of pieces to play with. Look, I don't know if Shane Bowen is going to continue as defensive coordinator, but I can tell you there are a lot of players in this locker room who are not happy with the way that game was called at the end of this game. And to me, I've already told you, it's fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This happened, a very similar blueprint in Dallas at the end of regulation. Yes, the Cowboys had a timeout, but the Giants, I thought they learned their lesson last week defensively. The biggest play of the game was the Cordell Flott interception when Bowen sent the house at Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts is a much more dangerous passer than Bo Nix. Think about that one. Jalen Hurts is an inconsistent passer. What does that say about Bo Nix? So to play soft coverage and let Bo Nix pick his spot and throw down the field is a mistake of mammoth proportions. Schematically, yeah, it'd help if a player can make a play. But you're asking players now on the back end who are not your best players to make a play and win you the game when you want your players up front to make those plays. I would much rather put the game in the hands of Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, and Kayvon Thibodeau and tell them, go get him. Go get him. Before he makes a play, go get him. Make him uncomfortable. Make him throw on the run. Instead, you rush 3. You're basically saying 3 on 5, it's a give up. We're going to make the play on the back end. And you don't have your 2 best players on the back end. You want to argue Holland and Newman is very close at safety. Okay, I'm fine. I know a lot of you are down on Tyler Newman, but I think in terms of the way this game played out, that's the biggest issue I have. And that's why I wouldn't be surprised if there's a change at defensive coordinator. Because the coordinator, with the input of the head coach, again, I don't know what happened at the end of the game. We'll have the opportunity to try to speak to Brian Dable tomorrow. He's probably not going to say anything, so I have to do as much reporting as I can. But I haven't been on the Shane Bowen needs to be fired situation. Today, by using a very similar blueprint to what you did in Dallas and losing a game in almost the exact same fashion, something's got to change. Because now you're going to lose your players. Brian Dable needs to make a call here for the sake of his locker room. And I hate the fact that you have to sacrifice, so to speak, a defensive coordinator. But the Giants are 2-5. They're playing for jobs. They're playing for a season. The reality is you got to keep this team together. And that decision at the end of the game is going to haunt this team, just like Dallas in week 2 haunted them. And they almost recovered from it. They almost recovered from that game against Dallas and the loss to New Orleans. They went and they kicked the crap out of the Eagles. I don't care who was hurt. The Giants didn't have Malik Neighbors. They come here to Denver and they dominate the game for 3 quarters. And they go out and lose a game like no other team in the NFL has ever lost. Just think about that. I'm going to read that to you before I go. And get ready to head on a red eye and head back home. Because that is the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is the Giants, no team in NFL history had ever allowed 0 points through 3 quarters, then allowed 33 in the fourth. Unacceptable. And to pull this team together, they're going to have a lot of work this week to be able to make sure that this team is healthy, ready to go, and confident. Your quarterback's going to be confident. Your quarterback's ready, and that gives you a fighting chance in every game on your schedule the rest of the way out. You can't lose this defense like that. You can't dominate the game and then have the defense cough it up like that. And like I said, this is essentially, as an analogy, this is essentially back if the Yankees in their World Series heyday under Joe Torre decided that they were going to lose a World Series without putting Mariano on the mound. That's what the Giants did at the end of this game. Your best players need to make plays. You don't rely on your role players to make plays when the game is on the line. You had 33 seconds left. Unleash the hounds. Don't put your tail between your legs and back up and say, go ahead, come and get us. Unacceptable. And the Giants leave here with one of the worst losses that they've had in a very long time. So, again, it's compartmentalizing time. Rookie quarterback, great. Love to see his growth. Continue to improve. Rookie running back, played a hell of a game. Tyrone Tracy, told you. Tyrone Tracy was so wide open on that touchdown run, he stopped mid-run. He's like, okay, why are they blowing this play dead? That's how good the Giants were for 3 quarters. You had guys looking around going, is this really happening? And then when the final whistle blew, you had everyone on the Giants looking around saying, is this really happening again? I don't know what to tell you, Giants fans, but I will tell you that we are all in. We will be in Philly this week, and we will continue to follow this team and see what this team and this roller coaster and what they pull off. But I'm still having a hard time figuring out how they lost this game. So I can only imagine the emotional letdown that this fan base is having. And really the players in the locker room. This was a gut punch of epic proportions. For Paul Wood, I'm Art Stapleton. We are all in. It's good night from Denver. Appreciate you watching and listening as always. Keep up with our coverage on NorthJersey.com. And we will catch you this week for whatever shows Paul and I can come up with. Try to pick up the pieces here in Denver and figure out what's left of this Giants season. You got a fun quarterback to watch, so he makes everything interesting. You have a lot of good players too here. A lot better than what happened today on this team, for this team, on this field. Everybody have a good night from Denver. From Mile High, we are out. We are all in, and we'll catch you this week.